And I will call the Union 26 School Committee to order at 7:30.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Gilson, for coming and being with us tonight. I thought perhaps first we could all just go around and say our names and the towns we're here representing. So I'm Sarah Vest-Kenny. I'm from Pelham on the region and Union 26. And Union 26 is the two elementary schools for the superintendency, just to make things spicy. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so I'm Anna Hurd. I'm from Shutesbury. I'm on the Shutesbury representative on the Regional School Committee.
I'm William Schur, and my pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm here on the region. I'm the vice chair of the region and also the vice chair of Union 26.
Hi, I'm
Oh, and also, yeah, the vice chair of Pelham School Committee. I'm just the vice chair everywhere.
so many titles. Tillman Wolf from Leverett.
Irv Rhodes, I am the chair of Union 26 and the vice chair of Amherst.
Margaret Stancer, I'm the chair of the Pelham Committee, and I'm on Union 26 from Pelham.
Sarah Marshall, I chair the Amherst School Committee.
Deb Leonard, I'm on the Amherst School Committee.
Bridget Hines, she, her, and I am on Amherst School Committee and Union 26.
Jennifer Shao, I use she, her pronouns, and Amherst.
Susan Gilson.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we have some questions we'd love for you to answer for us. But first, we'd just like to get to know you a little bit. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why do you want to be our superintendent and what makes you feel like you're the best fit for this job?
Okay. I have had district experience. I've had building-based experience. At times, I've been both building and district. And I've been in a regional school district for almost 21 years, which is very similar to your district, and that is why I've applied. And so I would also share with you that I have a very strong work ethic, which I definitely see that you need and you would value. And also I'm someone who is an active listener. I listen to all staff inputs and I treat people with respect, and that's always my common approach as I work to build relationships with people. I have two favorite quotes, and one is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens can change the world," and indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And so I believe in the power of school communities to make change for the betterment of students. So that has always served me well my entire life as I've worked with people in this role. My other favorite quote also refers to the building of healthy relationships. And I was very pleased in my go tour around the high school the other day, and I actually saw this quote on the wall of one of the high school teachers. I forget the teacher's name, but the quote was there. And so I was like, aha, she believes it too. But I've learned that people will forget what you said. You're not going to remember everything that I share with you tonight. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's always going to be a part of, as a teacher, you build a relationship with the classes that you have. When you become a principal, you build a relationship in a school with your students and your teachers. And as a superintendent, you continue to build relationships with your community, the parents in your schools, and it's on a much larger scale. So I believe in the value of that and I think that when you have established and invested in strong relationships, they serve you well for a very long time. And, so I wouldn't do it any other way. I have a very unique, comprehensive background, and a comprehensive background consists of, an engineering degree, music degrees, curriculum and instruction degrees, cognition and instruction PhD, which actually very few women have, just like very few women were going through the engineering program that I went through. So somehow in my lifetime, I have managed to do all these things. I actively was, graduated at with different things at the top of my class, and that really wasn't the significance of it. I like programs that really demand a high level of challenge and expertise. And I've been able to use that comprehensive background to really understand diverse stakeholders at all levels of organizations. So, I will tell you 2 fun facts about me. And the 2 fun facts are that when I was I told the high school panel that I talked with the other day about this, and I said, when I was a senior, I played the violin on Irish national TV. I was actually on the Late Late Show in Ireland. And that has been something that I've remembered because as you learn to play at that level in orchestras, and I've also played in like professional symphonies, in my late teens and early 20s, you learn to hear every section of the orchestra. You learn to help everybody play together well, and you learn to play together no matter what seat you sit in the orchestra. And I've been in all the seats. I moved from last chair to first chair to soloist, and did just fine. Again, it's like, how do you challenge yourself and take the ultimate challenge? And, I was also fascinated with planes, and so I pursued a private pilot license, and I don't hold that license anymore. But one of those, you have to be in regular practice, and one of the things that they teach you before you fly solo in a small Cessna is that you have to be able to do emergency maneuvers and then learn to recover very, very quickly. And one of the emergency maneuvers, that they call it the stall, and that's when you fly the plane upward until the wings don't support the airplane anymore, and then you take a nosedive down. And the first time I did it, I was like, okay, we're going down, and the first thing you want to do is save yourself, and so you pull up on the steering wheel of the airplane. But what you learn to do is go against your natural instinct because you're in free fall condition, and you push into stabilize yourself. And I see that as critical in all sorts of life situations. You have to look at what your instrument panel is telling you, and you have to stabilize and take control of the plane. So that was those were fun moments in my life, and I think they're kind of critical to different journeys that the school district finds themselves on. And it's really how you can stabilize things and take control and really work with people to lead. I also found the other key thing to my learning has been my engineering degree. As I was one of 11 women who went through the program. I had my own affinity group, which was very small. While I graduated at the top of the engineering class as well as the other class in education, I think that one of the things that clearly resonated with me is I became very understanding of how to be in an inclusive environment. And in education, I've really worked to make sure that environments include everyone. And I think that's been a part of my continued success in education. The other added benefits from engineering are I have been very creative in facilities repair. I have led a
Do it yourself.
Yeah, do it yourself. That is right. But even in guiding our custodial staff, we've had plumbing problems, we've had electrical problems, and I've gotten involved in every one, and we've been much more cost efficient and able to solve those problems. It also has given me a passion for knowing really what is innovation and how to really work with STEM schools. I was in a elementary STEM school for its first 6 years of operation, and I used that background to work and lead a steering committee where we applied for United States Blue Ribbon School of Excellence Award, and we won the award for exceptional performance in STEM schools. And so I've used this background all my life, and I'm certainly glad that I invested the time. And it certainly has been a learning experience. And so those are just parts of me and who I am. And I'll get to the next question. Why do I want to be your superintendent? Because I think I can do the job. That's it. The end of the story. I have such a versatile, well-detailed background. I think you need that right now. I know how to work with press people, and I think that in my regional experience has taught me to recognize how to optimize all the efficiencies and develop really smart partnerships. And in regionals, I came from a traditional teaching environment to a regional school environment, and initially I thought that it was no different. At that time, I was a middle school principal, and I really thought, okay, I have 3 different towns that are coming into the middle school. Well, there were 3 different districts coming into the middle school. And so I've learned that partnerships enhance lots of aspects of regional schools and save monies and better the resources that you're able to provide for the total regional school community. So I find that fascinating, and even something as simple as people think that data just moves from one district to the other, and it moves all good. And the data one year didn't move all good, and I was fortunate to have a secretary to be able to explain when we had people calling that it's nice that you're married to your neighbor, and and so she made a joke out of it, and honestly, we got through that crisis. But when you have common student information systems and you train the same way, then all your data exports normally. But when you had 3 different systems, one of the things that I learned was that our secretaries were, for the transition, the data transition, most of the imports came through, but they still had a lot of cleanup. And that's just not efficient, and it's not effective. So I've learned exactly where to look and where you can find cost savings. So that's really made me very smart at looking at optimizing efficiencies in terms of overall budgeting, and I think that that could be helpful. I will also tell you, in terms of oversight, which I also think you need right now, I am strategically and multiply licensed in all areas of district office functioning, which means that I hold business director license, I hold special education director license, I hold principal licenses at all levels, again, I did perform in a dual role, and I think that sometimes you see your most talented people in regional school districts, and they have to perform many roles because there are different operational impacts of budgeting at different moments. So I'm well poised to understand them, to work with people in central office, to support them, and also I have a keen insight in terms of what they're doing. Okay, I have also written for, now it's added up to be like multi-millions of grants, where I've been able to vision strategically for things that we've needed in our district. I've been able to build our curriculum with like digital literacies grant. I received a 3-year competitive grant. Our district didn't get competitive grants until I started writing them. We, the competitive grants tend to go to what the state defines as being priority schools. So I had to learn how to use data points to make sure that my district sounded like a priority to the state, and I learned to do that. And I've received several hundreds of thousands of dollars for implementation of a middle school math program. And we were able to bring in coaching. We were able to bring in consultants to help our teachers at the middle level implement those math programs, and it has improved student performance and programs and opportunities for kids. So, so strategically, I would say that, why do I really think I'm the best person for the job? I think I have the comprehensive background to do the job. I think I can be very strategic in terms of understanding your needs and where they sit right now. I was telling a few people earlier, I had people calling me from different parts of the country saying they knew I was going to come here today, and they said, why? Why? And so I just find these positions, I love regional school districts. I find the positions fascinating. I understand what you're all dealing with. And I think that I'm really strong with crisis management, and there are different levels of crisis management. So I guess, lastly, in terms of being the best person, I have three more assets to tell you about. One is that I can, I have an established network of people in Massachusetts that I draw on regularly. And you talk about safe and inclusive schools. I have, worked with the director of Safe Schools for years. He has used my office space in my school district. He has also used my site for regional GSA meetings. And I think, and I've also talked with the director at the Stonewell Center, which is here in Amherst. So I know that in terms of looking at that, I also have a network across the country, and I tend to look out for really contacting people that are the best in terms of pursuing best practice in education. I love that. Now, the example I gave you with the plane, I've had successive jobs where I've been able to stabilize the environment and improve the performance of the students in the environment. The first position that I ever held as a teacher, one of the students in my 5th grade class said, "Are you going to leave us like the 5 other teachers did?" And I said, "Oh no, I do not plan to leave you." And instead we grew I was a music teacher. The choral program was absolutely a disaster. Within a couple of months, I brought it up to 68. And then by the end of the year, I had about 100 kids singing. So, that was a fabulous experience. And it also set the stage when I jumped into my regional school district. They had they were struggling with an extreme fiscal crisis. And in fact, the entire middle school administration had been wiped out. The superintendent had left. And so it was a school that was left with major restructuring to be done, and I did that successfully. And we looked at ways, I brought together a team of people, we looked longitudinally at the data, and as I looked longitudinally at the data, what we noticed was we could make improvements at zero cost. And so we worked together to make those improvements. I had to restructure world language. I used the teachers that I had. We originally, by the time students were had completed middle school, they originally were only getting like 3/4 of a year of official language instruction. And so, while I believe in always educating younger students and building that up across grades, what I saw was that if we committed to daily world language instruction in the 8th grade year, I could really position our teachers to help the kids strategically move towards advanced placement. I restructured the math program. We had more kids who were positioned for calculus. I brought 80 hours back into the school day. 990 hours are the minimum limit that the state requires. So, and we, I think that every single teacher was absolutely pleased with the result. And our parents were pleased with the result. And our community was pleased. And initially, the middle school was known as the black hole. And, so, that didn't last very long. And so I have learned to work with different things at different times. I've done that by clearly communicating with staff and also making sure that relationships are foundational in terms of building the teaching and learning environment. And if relationships are built well and they're positive and there is minimal condition of a student upset, then they can fully learn and engage in the learning experience. So that is really why I think I should be and can be, and I'm very qualified to be your superintendent.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
And I'm sorry if that took a long time.
No,
but
that's fine. That was a lot of really good
Yeah.
information. Okay, so we have a few questions and probably some follow-ups, and we'll just dive right in. So, given the makeup of our 3 separate districts, tell us about your experience in working collaboratively with multiple stakeholders, including individual school committees and multiple municipal government bodies. Can you provide examples of successful partnerships you've forged?
I think we have exactly that same situation where I've had to work with, we are the 4th district. We have 3 sending districts that come to us as part of our regional school districts. One of the areas that I've definitely understood that it was a weakness, now it is a strength. We work on areas of curriculum together strategically amongst all 4 districts. We provide through a curriculum review process. That's a formalized opportunity to review and update our curriculum so that it fully aligns with the latest state standards for the grade levels. I think that one example that was a former challenge and now it is not, our science curriculum as students entered from different districts. We found that the science assessment in grade 5 is not, we knew that it's not given again until grade 8. The state gives you local control on what you can teach as part of science education. So that means that if you're trying to build on units, if you have inconsistencies in your towns, the kids don't get tested in again until grade 8. So we jointly collaborated, and I basically brought in an expert in science education curriculum. It was a man from Cambridge College, John Papadonis, maybe you know him. We, all 4 districts, worked together to unpack the curriculum and reset it so that everybody was in cohesive alignment to establish stronger outcomes. Okay, so that's one area. In the mathematics area, we recognized that we had 3 different sending districts coming in, and at times we had lattice math being taught, and I still don't know what lattice math is, even though I'm, had a lot of math in my life. And then we had, so I realized my 7th grade teachers were really struggling because the kids were coming in with all different math backgrounds and experiences. And so we made, we got together as a district, and, we are continuing to work together. And now we have 2 out of 3 districts that are entering the middle school with the same mathematics curriculum. And it's about common language. It's about access for students who are all students, and it's also about alignment. And so while people can technically say at a superficial level, and it is superficial, they can say, oh yes, we're all aligned with the standards, but if you're not using the same program, there's a consistency in the language maybe within the program that has to be either retaught or addressed or learned in a better way. We have looked at collaborating. I could unpack this forever. So you may just have to tell me time to go on to the next question if you feel I've answered it.
Okay, well, how about if we see if there's any follow-up questions from the group that would like to, Sarah?
Yeah.
Can I just draw your attention back to part of that question,
Yes.
if I can, about working with the municipal governments, if that has been?
Yes. Okay. So municipal governments we've worked with particularly in terms of budgeting. And in fact, we have one town that sets the meeting for their town meeting in May. And the other 2 have strategically positioned themselves to run their town meetings on exactly the same night at exactly the same time. So we've worked with that for many years. And, so I sit in one meeting and my colleague sits in the other meeting. We text back and forth. As part of our regional agreement, we have 2 out of 3 towns that must agree to the cost, and then our budget is, will work for all 3. And so what we try to do strategically is we try to communicate with each town. We learn what's reasonable in terms of the affordability factor. And as we listen to the towns, it does no good for anybody if the budget is so strapped that people are having to make choices between a firefighter, having a police come to their house, or education. So we tried to establish a reasonable budgeting amount, and we continue. It's a year-long process where we set a budget calendar, we provide the documents, we look at our staff, and we have all of our different departments come to us with what we call a needs-based budget, and they look at the essential things of what they need in all areas to go forth for the year. We look at technology, and this is another efficiency that, automatic renewals just come like that, and they can be very costly and expensive. So we ask every department to really consider from a technology base what they're still using, what they still need, and then it goes to our tech director, and he evaluates across the district in terms of where we can best spend our money. So that's municipal governments, and that's how we do it. Okay, thank you for the follow-up.
Tillman, did you have a follow-up for this one?
No, I wanted to ask the next question, or I'm not sure what the process is. Are you asking?
Sure.
She's asking.
I
Oh,
was
you
gonna
asked the question. Good. Never mind.
In an environment where school budgets have contended with rising costs and limitations on what the state and towns can provide, what is your vision for ensuring that our students receive high-quality, academically rigorous education with sufficient choices and support, and how have you managed that in the past?
Mm-hmm. What I've noticed is that every 7 years, there seems to be an upheaval in the budget. And if you were to look at your own trajectory, you may or may not find the same thing. Our strategy has been to always put positions that are student-facing positions, and to really value programs and opportunities that are direct for the students. So the students always come first in this process. I've been in situations where we've strategically been in places where we've made our decisions, and we get to the time in January, and the meetings with the municipal governments are looking like we're going to have to go in a certain direction. And so that's a point in time where we really call on all the principals to sit down with us, look at the budget, we look to not revise the infrastructure and to try to maintain schedules to the best of our ability. But we do recognize that when times are tough, we call on the principals to directly empower them in terms of how they want to really work with the cuts in their particular school buildings. Because at the end of the day, the principals are there, they have to run their buildings, and they have to know what's working, and they have to be able to defend what is being compromised. So I think that that process that has worked very well for us, and everybody becomes of one voice in terms of strategically what we have to do. Budget losses in this year are great all over the place. I was talking to someone, in California, and she said to me today, she said, I never realized, but she said, our budget is bad too, and it's in California. And so, so I talk about like just knowing the pulse and changes and whatever. And, you can write grants, you can develop partnerships, you can try to save on efficiencies and optimize things. But at the end of the day, our significant restructures have come down the pike every 7 years. I think that I think I have a lot of thoughts on that journey. Sometimes, do you say, did we mismanage? No, because it's hitting everybody else on the same time. So we're on the same cycle together, and I keep trying to think about how to work with it better. At least I'm aware of the trajectory of it. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, it just comes with economic downturns. And that's why the contracts have the protections that they do for people. And, so I've worked with all sorts of conditions and climates, and I've even worked in conditions where we were negotiating. I've seen negotiation in all sorts of weather, you can be the same person in all sorts of weather, but perception is reality. And so it's how do you work with that reality that you're in, and when there is no money for contractual raises, what is your union willing, how are they poised and willing to work with you to get at a realistic number? Okay?
Any follow-up questions? Tillman and then Deb.
The example about efficiencies and restructuring that you mentioned, can you give an example of what you've done there previously, an example of one of those restructurings?
Yes, I can. And I will, bring you back to one of the examples that I started with. I had to really look at scheduling, because when I entered, the budget cut was so severe, we lost 2 full teams of teaching staff, which I had no control over. I just lost them. Mm-hmm. And that was the teachers were dependent at the middle school for their ebb and flow of communication on the team-based environment at the middle school. And what happened in the team-based environment was how that accounted for their delivery of responsive classroom strategies, their ability to deliver tiered supports to the students that needed it, and also how they worked with curriculum that aligned with standards and all of that. I think what we did, actually I know what we did, was the examples that I gave you. We restructured. I took the schedule down from 7 days to 6 days. We had an inequitable, when I say that, we had on a 7-day rotation, you had one grade getting more physical education than the other grade. And so that was an easy thing. We couldn't support it, so we went through a 6-day schedule, 3 on 3. We restructured our world language. We made it better. We restructured our math program. We made it better, just to, call in that example. And then because I really know best practice in education, and part of the heart of the teaming model is to connect teachers with core groups of students. So we began that process, and I know scheduling so well that I was able to work with my secretaries, who helped me immensely that summer. And again, it was like I know how to schedule at the drop of a dime, and it's almost 100%. It's like 88%, right? And then you just tweak it till it becomes the best it can be. And and so I did that. We re-envisioned how to recreate teaming, and now our teaming is fully functional, and we've incorporated co-teaching as a part of that model. And so we were able to go from a condition that could have been like disastrous and really kind of make it all inclusive. And, but one of the things that strategically I learned is that, the thought I put into it, I had to project 10 years out in terms of enrollments. I had to look at, anticipation of fiscal costs. You learn that you can't reduce singleton programs because it takes a long time to bring those programs back. So I've had that journey as well. And so it's really about, as we made those differences, one of the added benefits was we were able to restructure our intervention and our enrichment programs, and our arts teachers will tell you it's the best schedule that they ever had, to work with. And so, that was again, brought a lot of people together, really looked at how we can do the best with little monies, and that schedule survived throughout intensive budget cuts for like 13 years. So, we were able to iterate with our, arts people too, in terms of transitioning and just being adaptable and flexible, but still maintaining a standard for achievement and excellence. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deb, did you have a follow-up?
I don't know what a singleton program is.
Wonderful. Okay, when I say a singleton program, you don't want to cut your one band teacher that you have, because that's an extremely hard, and it's particularly hard because you will find that not everyone, as much as I promote music, you will find that, your budget, somehow you're not going to get a big audience to come out to restore your music teacher. It's all about restoring, restoring your math teacher. So you have to kind of strategically, maneuver. And, it's the same too if you're, if you have, one health teacher. Now, health is required. But you don't want to lose, like if you have one teacher who's teaching your whole STEM program in the middle school, you don't want to cut that person. That's what a singleton is. And thanks for asking for clarification.
Sure. And then I did have a follow-up about this interview question. So you spoke to coming into a situation where there have been cuts ahead of you. Can you speak about the largest cut you had to face in terms of a decision you made as an assistant superintendent, or you're as an administrator rather than entering as a building administrator?
In terms of strategically a large cut that I've had to make at the district office level, I think that fortunately I've been so adept at working with programming that we've seen very little or no impact on programs and procedures and policies. And so I would have fought before those decisions were made, but I was not in a position initially to do so. And unfortunately, I've been in positions where I've been able to work with the budget as it stands. You know, and I think one of the questions I got asked last night on the forum was, you know, about science education, and the teachers really felt like, you know, the teacher or whoever asked that question said, well, aren't I, you know, she said, won't the budget cuts make it harder to do my job? And you know what? That is where I have to be fully honest. Budget cuts impact everyone across the board. You know, I think that, you know, strategically, we've all suggested and made, we don't have one person make that total decision at the budget table. It needs to be owned by every administrator with one voice. And so, you know, I think, you know, as we go around, you know, but sometimes there just are no more choices left. And that's an awful position to be in. And so that's when you have to, you know, exercise the unit contracts and the reduction in force, and you try to strategically plan for people and job loss and how that's gonna affect them. Okay.
All right. So next question is, how do you prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion in hiring practices? Can you share strategies you've used to recruit and retain diverse and high quality staff members?
Okay. I have developed the mentoring program, and not only that, I participate in a statewide PLC, which meets regularly about teacher diversification. I don't know if Amherst is a part of that experience at all. You had to write a grant.
Professional learning community? PLC?
Well, right, no. Ask. But this is a specific grant called Teacher Diversification, and it's designed to bring people from the state together to really focus on trying to redesign hiring practices, and there were strategic pathways that were a part of this grant. One was there's that acknowledgement and recognition that as you look at hiring of diverse candidates to your program, there are not necessarily enough diverse candidates out there. And there's a theory on that, in that we haven't shaped our relationships well in our classrooms to enable or support an overwhelming number of people that want to be teachers. So I have gone to career fairs. You know, now most of them are virtual. They have this nice program called Handshake, right? And so I have spent some of my Saturdays at diverse recruiting fairs, you know, and talked with anybody that wants to talk with me, and reached out, you know, when there were people that I wanted to talk to. And so we've continued through the PLC to continue, well, it's a statewide professional learning community. It's just large, and we meet virtually. And we have been able to bring small groups together, like groups within your district, and then also respond, mix the groups up. And so there was a lot of work that went into applying for that grant. We've held it for 3 years running, and strategically, we're also building a pathway in the high school to support teacher diversification too. And part of that was we funded tuition for underrepresented students to engage in early college opportunities, because we have a partnership. You know, so we've done that. We've looked at building opportunities for students to serve as teachers. I've supported affinity group advisorships, and that's we fund and we our student affinity groups are very active, and so it's our hope that as they run trainings and they become very good at instructing our whole high school in areas like microaggressions that actually improve, basically not everybody understands what affects other students. And so we have made that a part of our training and worked with them to learn to lead. And so we've filtered that and empowered the students to make change within the school. And we have also had experiences where they've been able to share. All of our affinity groups are, come together. And a recent panel that we had was 12 students from our high school were willing and comfortable sharing their vulnerabilities and how to work with staff to actually confront if they're, as you hear in things in your environment, it's active bystander intervention. And ultimately, we hope that that will continue to improve our environments to the point where, with students and staff working together, it's minimized, and maybe some of our kids that experience better school environments will want to join a teaching workforce. And there's a data point that says that 60% of students that are in your local area will most likely become, if they pursue education. So we're offering an education. We have a high school teacher who's going to be offering a course in teaching next year at our high school. So all of these, like strategically, we are building a supportive culture by basically educating. Khalees Warnham was actually in my district today, and she teaches cultural proficiency. And even though I planned for it, wrote the grant for it, I was not here for it. I'm here now, and I had a colleague step in for me to introduce her. So, but there are multiple factors that go into thinking through DEI, and I probably could do a complete presentation for staff or for you, but I just would ask that you would follow up, if you need to, and I can perhaps leave it there to
Yeah,
answer the
that's
question. Okay.
Any follow-up questions? Okay, great.
So I'm up.
Great. Yeah.
I have two grandsons. One of them graduated from KP, and one is now getting ready to go into his junior year.
Okay. Yeah.
I am, obviously, as a grandfather,
Yes.
I'm really, really familiar with KP.
Excellent.
Over the years. The question here is, can you provide examples of how you have ensured the academic success and thriving of students from diverse backgrounds, including English language learners, special education students, LGBTQIA students, BIPOC students, and other historically marginalized communities? And when you answer that, would you please tell us the makeup of KP in terms of those populations?
Okay. So our largest group with the greatest disparities is our students with disabilities subgroup. Okay. We do have affinity groups for LGBTQ, and we also have affinity groups that are BIPOC oriented. We have wonderful advisors for both. In terms of working with those, working with every student. Do you want to say something, or you want me to? Okay,
I'm
got it. Just
positioning myself so I
yes.
can stand.
Oh, got it. Okay.
No, the reason I was doing that is because I have been setting for a long time.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, I
trying to-
understand. So have I too. Okay, so really, I think one of the things strategically that I've done, first of all, we have an early college partnership. And so an early college partnership, I wrote for a competitive grant on behalf of 11 other districts, including KP, to secure funds to allow underrepresented students to go tuition-free to early college programs, okay? Through our network, I regularly interact with our BIPOC, we call it People of Prosperity. The kids named it and they like that. And so the students, that is a prime place where our advisor makes sure that they are aware of every single event that's happening in our school at any time. And she makes opportunities. She teaches a course in social justice, and she also encourages kids to take it. One of the early college opportunities that we also had was a early college opportunity to take a college class at Worcester State in understanding people's ethnic backgrounds. And so we had several students who took that, and one of the strategic things that happened as a result of that is they learned, as part of the class project at Worcester State, they learned how to return and teach their teachers how to understand and become more conscious of their own identities and bias. The 4 students from the People of Prosperity group also were encouraged to submit a proposal for an international conference in education, social justice, and education. They were the only group of high school students that was accepted to this conference in the whole country. And so the conference actually was going to be held in Hawaii, and I contacted the moderator for the session, and basically asked him to if they could present it virtually. And so he allowed that, and at first pass, they were not going to allow that because they said they at least had to have one person on site in Hawaii. We could not fund that, and I even called the State Department to see if they would consider funding it as part of our teacher diversification grant called High School Pathway, and the guy said he could not do it. So we secured that opportunity. The 4 students had an opportunity to present, so we also are very inclusive in terms of, as we look at different opportunities throughout the school that are teachable moments. We do ask them to inform, and basically teach school-wide teaching on microaggressions and things that are not inclusive or make them, make students feel not included. We've worked with co-teaching as part of the environment for students with disabilities. We brought in a trainer from the University of Florida on recommendation, and part of one of the grants that I wrote. Our co-teaching program is thriving and showing success in multiple areas in mathematics. So, we're looking at our different groups. LGBTQ, I've been involved, as I said, with Jeff Parati for years. We provided trainings. We have a fully active GSA at our school, in our schools, and fully active GSA. Jeff Parati is also, he's basically used my office to meet with the team that works on the regional GSA, and then additionally, in my space, school space, we've offered up our school space to bring students together from all over to engage in regional GSA meetings. Okay, so, in terms of, I feel like we have actively met the needs of our existing body of students that are at KP.
Anyone follow up?
Just want to check. GSA is Gay Straight Alliance?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right. And acronyms clarify because not everybody uses the same strategy or approach or acronyms.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I would just say what strategies have you used to ensure that the BIPOC population or other marginalized populations are equally have equal access to the high academic classrooms in the high schools?
We have worked with our guidance counseling staff and also, the lead advisors who are very aware of all students that benefit from educational programs. And so we make them the key resources to be the information, basically information generators to say, okay, this is coming up, you have this ability, we want you to succeed, and we have a message, which is advanced placement for all. And so we've really promoted that message of advanced placement for all, and we are continuing to encourage that across the board.
Anyone else? One question. Would you please tell us the racial and makeup of KP?
The ratio and makeup of KP. We have students who are Black, Hispanic. I can't remember the exact percentages. I will say that our students with disabilities is our strongest and group in terms of percentages. So we have Hispanic, Black, and other diverse,
Right.
parts of our
Understood.
profile. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
since I do know.
Yes.
You have a very small percentage of Black
Yes.
minority
Correct.
students at KP. And that's not a weakness or a strength, it's just a fact.
No, it is a fact. Yes. Yes. However, what I will share is my experience in the elementary school program. I worked with a student population that was 50%, 50-50. That is where we found our greatest success in the school opening as a STEM school, where we brought everybody together to challenge them, and we succeeded with exceptional performance and received a United States Blue Ribbon Award.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Next question is, can you share the actions you've taken or strategies you have put in place to foster safety and inclusivity within schools, particularly concentrating on supporting vulnerable populations such as neurodivergent or LGBTQ1A students? IA students.
Yes, that's a great question. If you really draw from every presentation that Safe Schools provides, a key slide in there is looking at training staff, supporting affinity groups for students, building inclusive curriculum, and also looking at policies and procedures across the district. And I think pretty much that does go for all. And, so I think it's incumbent upon districts to look strategically at how to build those things, communicate intentionally how we are looking at all those aspects. And what I've noticed is that we've done a lot of things where we're having students teach faculty and educate faculty that we have provided training for. So we have certain bodies or parts of our affinity groups that are working with their advisors. They are coming up with key things that they want students, other students in the school to be educated about. And we are finding opportunities throughout the school such as, their key months, where we're looking at, providing role models, and really looking at, we've done a lot in our English curriculum to bring diversity to the forefront, and been really inclusive in our English curriculum. And our libraries also do reflect that. And I have worked on a curriculum writing template where the full district not only capitalizes on something called universal design for learning, but also asks every teacher as they rewrite curriculum to really focus in on diversity, equity, and inclusion and the strategies that they are applying now in their classrooms to make sure that all students feel like they belong.
Any follow-ups? Anyone?
Thanks. I would just like to follow up a little bit and ask about any improvements or strategies or policies that you put in place that might relate to bullying, harassment, or anything of that regard as it relates to these subgroups of students.
I think, we tend to draw our policies from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, which is, it's vetted legally, which I think is important. Those policies become part of our handbooks, which are, again, attorney reviewed prior to the release of those things. So I think that that's one of the areas that school committee goes through a policy review, and you go through all those elements, and there's typically somebody that would come in from the Mass Association of School Committees to look at those. I will tell you, I did a full institutional review for the TFM monitoring that the state requires. There's a civil rights compliance part of it, and there's a special education compliance part of that review. I had to look at our policies and reinforce, and it was vetted by legal means. So right now, we assume that we're at a good place in terms of the policies that we have.
Could I ask, what's TFM?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
What was the question?
What is
What's
TFM?
A tiered focus monitoring review, and it's initiated by the State Department of Education, and it happens, it's a compliance thing that happens, you have to provide data at the 3-year mark and data at the 6-year mark, and then you learn what you're doing that is in full compliance or not, and if I think we really have had extraordinary success with our tiered focus monitoring reviews, and I think I tend to do half of the civil rights side of it. Actually, I do the full civil rights side of it, and my special education director does the special ed part of the tiered focused monitoring review.
Anyone else have any questions or follow-up? So the last question I have is, describe your experience leading a school committee through a crisis. What strategies did you use to help rebuild trust and heal a divided community? What did you learn? What would you repeat, and what would you do differently?
What did I learn? What would I repeat? What would I do differently? I think you have to build a trusting relationship from the very beginning. I see, in terms of a direction of where you might need to go, I think that one of the things that continues to, support us, I have prided myself on communication and written communication, but I think one of the advantages, I think you have to look at whatever situation that you're in, and I think you have to respond. Like, I think that in terms of, building inclusive schools, I think key elements would be to respond to, how are we completing our policy reviews? How are we completing trainings for staff? How are we completing or supporting affinity groups for students? And then what are we doing to build inclusive curriculum? And so I think strategically, as you communicate about all three things, I think that you'll begin to build a much more positive story for the district in the press as you deal with those things directly and you establish, I hate to use the word data, but it is supportive data that you need to establish your credibility. You have to be reporting out on very concrete measures that you're taking. And I think we've tried to, in terms of crisis, we have been in fiscal crisis. We have been in situations of crisis, with emergency management. And we've just responded directly and accurately to the public in terms of telling as much as we can tell about the story. So I think that I would leave it there.
All right.
Okay?
Any follow-up?
Could you suggest some first steps that you would take in our community as the superintendent?
Mm-hmm. I think I would love to do that. Because look, I used to pride myself on the quality of my work, right? And I always still do. But I think at times, what I have learned is that, we have employed for a nominal fee. It's an embarrassment at how low the fee is. We have gone with a public relations firm, and that has given us access to promoting. It's like positive behavior intervention with your community is what it is, and so we have forward-facing. They commit to us to providing positive press stories, which are sometimes. As educators, we work really hard, but one of the things that we are not as good at doing is promoting our own successes. Mm-hmm. And I think what I learned from the site visit is that you have many successful things that your outer public or the greater public doesn't know about. And they're reading these negative stories, and the only way to combat negative stories is to have a steady stream of public relations stories coming out. And so if you look at your website, the website should have a steady stream of publications each month that are coming out. We commit to 8 stories a month of public positive press stories. And the other thing that the positive press, that this company has done for us, they actually handle they used to handle Governor Baker's emergency response. And so you have access to a network of people who will help you tell your story. And, you don't just get one writer assigned to you. You have the team. And they are working with issues in school districts all over probably the New England region. And so they're going to have up-to-the-minute, stories, situations, whatever. The price is $10,000 about, to rebuild. The other thing that I have learned is that if you have a negative story that's about to come out, you get the writers on top of it. You can put the full administrative team on managing the crisis. Ultimately, the PR firm will come back and they'll tell you how you can manage how you can manage your narrative. You get the final approval over the narrative. So the other thing they will do is they'll feed it. They'll feed your narrative because you know what? No matter what, I've learned that the situation always gets out no matter what you say or do. You can't hide it under the carpet. Somebody is always going to know something about it, and they're going to try to spin it in their own way. And so, what the PR firm is very good at strategically getting the word out so that it will hit, if you get it to them and you work on it by 3:30, you'll see it. It will have its air on the 5 o'clock, the 7 o'clock, the 9 o'clock, and the 11 o'clock news. And then it becomes almost, it's done. So you go through your intense moments of, I think as we run schools, they're highly personable or highly personal to the leadership that runs them. So you don't like to hear bad things going on in your school, but they do happen. And so I have found that has been a godsend to us because no school district is immune. Everybody has their shining moment when they're in the spotlight for things that they don't want to be in the spotlight at all for. And perception is reality, but if you don't have the control over that narrative, and you can't, as one person or within your small team of administrators, you need to have access to, a writing team that really, can support you to really, it's not being transparent, but it's just being able to state and get whatever the facts are that you know about at that time out there, because I think we did have what I would say became a national story probably in 2015, okay? And we, did work to settle it. It was a crisis for the district. It was actually in our kitchen. And so we had to manage that. It did not compromise. Well, anyway, that's a whole nother, you can envision a lot of different things. I can't say any more about that. But I guess that's the biggest thing that I have learned about crisis management. It's a very good firm, in terms of really trying to rebrand what the perception is, and I think I had people from different parts in the country calling me, and they knew I was coming here tonight, and they had read perceptual stories around the country, and it's not a fun place to be in. I believe that your community is doing great things. It's challenging sometimes when people are doing all sorts of different things to dedicate the time to committing to sharing your own successes. So that's all. I mean, that's all I'll say.
Anyone have follow-up?
So you described the PR solution and presenting the positive side of the school. How do you deal with a situation where the issue is not solved through PR, where there's a substantive problem?
It's not just about PR, but I think if you get at the root of your problem, you have to essentially, as you do the PR or you do the rebranding, if you don't have any data, and you might have data, I just haven't seen it publicly. You might have data to support that your schools are actually doing the right thing, but you've got to be able to not necessarily share it as data. You have to be able to, and I like the 4 frames, and I've thought about this a lot, because to provide safe and inclusive schools, it's not just about LGBTQ. It's not just about students with disabilities. It's not just about racial makeup. It's really about creating a culture that's safe where everyone can belong and learn together. And I think strategically those key areas, and it was on, one of the slides that's a part of the Safe Schools presentation. I'll go back to it again, but it really is, how are we defining what we're doing and showing people that our policies and procedures are safe? So we need to show that we're doing a safe job with our policies and procedures to protect all students and help them learn and grow. And then you have your, how are we educating staff? Well, we're doing that. You had training with Jason Wheeler here in the fall. And then, and then how are you supporting the affinity groups that you have? You have affinity groups, that's for like students to support them. Well, let's do it. And then you also have a need, to show you have a curriculum director, and I think you do.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, I think you do.
And I think I talked with her here, and so I think you have to show what you're doing. What strategies are you doing to be very specific about inclusive curriculum? I've seen your libraries. I'm excited about the population that you have. And I think it's a very clear strategy. And it's just providing continuous information. You may already have the information. And you may already be doing an outstanding job. And you are doing an outstanding job. I saw co-teaching in every single classroom at the elementaries, and where it showed that students were learning. And then the kids say that the most special relationship about Amherst is that they like their teachers and they're learning from their teachers. So that's the story that you want to have told. And I can tell it, but I also strategically, there are a lot of things to do here. And, that certainly is a priority, and it certainly might be worth the long-range investment. And so that is what I would share. Okay? All right.
Any other questions?
Does anyone from the committee have an additional question they'd like to ask? Jennifer?
Okay, Dr. Gilson, I'm going to say the awkward thing, which is that we know that you are up for 2 jobs in our district.
Yes.
The middle school principal position and the superintendent position. You were chosen as a finalist by 2 different search committees
Understood.
independently, which I think speaks to your experience and your credentials as well as your screening interview. So what do you want to tell us? What can you share, or what should we know about the situation that you're in where you're up for these two pretty different jobs?
They are. I know I can do them both very, very well. And I would love to do them both very well. And if you had an absolute budget crisis and you needed 2 people to do them very well, I would do my best. I think that in this condition right now, this would be my preference for a job. Okay, so that's my honest. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Deb?
In terms of the central office administration, we'll be hiring, and the new superintendent will be hiring an assistant superintendent. We have a position for human resources, head of human resources. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion position. Some of them have been overlapping in the past. So what would you look for in your administrative team, and what sort of style do you have in terms of managing not the building or interacting with your central office staff?
I most value a collaborative style of leadership. And one is where, you look at your data points, you build a direction together based on analyzing the data, you work with the school committee, and I did bring an entry plan, so I can share that with one person, but or
You can share it with everyone.
I can share it with everyone. Sure, yeah, no, that's fine. basically, I feel like the first step is really like listening, learning, and public relations. And whether, as I said, whether I take that on or whether we also solicit and reach out to a public relations firm that can do this professionally, we take that on together. I really want to look at internal outreach and external outreach and have people that I would want to meet with, and I have a whole list of them here. I can leave this with someone to actually see that it's very well thought out. And, in terms of, I tend to like to do I call it a SWOT analysis, which is looking at, as I talk with people initially, I'd want to know what are strengths, what are weaknesses or challenges in the district. And I actually used this with the high school team that I talked to the other day, and they were very, very forthcoming. And I understand that. And, and so I'd look at also what are the opportunities that you see, and also what are opportunities that you see, and also I'd look at what people value in a superintendent. Like, what do they expect the superintendent to do? So that would be phase one. Phase two is continuing to look at analysis, leadership, and collaboration. And those are two factors there. I would really like to, work with school committee to continue to keep you aware and informed of all things that are will support high quality teaching and learning programming, and empowering our schools and our teachers to continue to show better performance in these areas. And then I think in terms of working with the school, I would work with also the district leadership team, the central leadership team, and also the school principals. And I think that, really looking at, again, it's a strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, opportunities, and what do they see as potential barriers. So it's continuing to look at the data that we have in place that continue to demonstrate that as I work with both the school committee and the district and building-based leadership teams. I continued to provide you with reports on all of those areas. My third phase is just planning strategy for systemic change, and I think, that's really looking at building a strategic plan. And I think that's, I don't even know if you have a previous strategic plan. Did you, do you? I haven't, usually people post it and it's on a website. And
I believe there's a draft, one was
Okay.
drafted in 2019 and then the
And then
pandemic.
I totally understand that because, and then the pandemic, but we're out of the pandemic now so I think looking at that and then reviewing themes that emerge as a part of entry findings, and I suspect, there are many things that might emerge as part of entry findings. Perception is reality, and then I'd really like to look at what, as you reach out to the community, what all people say in terms of, as we bring that together with surveys, focus groups, their teams that you can bring in, organizations that will help you with strategic planning process. And by fall of 2025, I would like to work to have a strategic plan in place for the district. And, and that's how looking at the accomplishments of the strategic plan, you would evaluate me on things that I present in this, and also evaluate me on what is part of that strategic plan that's reflective, because that's our blueprint for achievement, consistency, learning, and how we support our own improvement. So I think if you don't make that public, it is really not a great place to be in. So I would want to work with you to make whatever the stakeholders feel are the common priorities. So I'm willing to listen to that, work with that, and continue to move forward with that. So, yes.
Thank you. And more quick.
Yeah, so one of the things you just said that struck sort of a nerve and also tremors in me because I've been going through it.
Yes.
You did you mentioned the SWOT analysis. The
Yes.
strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats.
I didn't mention T. I said swab.
You said SWOB.
Yes,
Barrier.
because I didn't like
Barriers.
the threats.
Some people never like.
Yes.
So the
I didn't like the word threats, and
Right.
yeah, so I changed it to barriers
Well,
because
well,
it's just
that's
the
right.
same. But
A
I
lot of
appreciate
people don't
yeah.
like SWAT, the T.
Yes.
Because SWAT comes out of the military thing. But
Yes, understood it.
So
yeah.
the question for me is, in terms of a SWOT analysis of you, what are they?
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I think that clearly the strengths in my background I have shared with you in terms of why I would like the job. I think, a weakness I will say is that I spend a lot of time trying to do what I do well. And, opportunities that I see, I think opportunities that I see as I work with people, I'm always seeing an opportunity, and that's based on the comprehensiveness of my background. So I like to use my background to really try to interpret whatever needs to be done. And I can lead a group of people to understand that. I have worked with barriers. I have trained with Dr. Gene Hall as part of my dissertation. And his strength area was to look, he was a guy who went across country and looked at patterns, processes, and potholes that basically are the barriers to changes in school. And his asset, or the thing that I learned from him, was how to implement change smoothly. So I hear people's barriers, and I have been able to work with those barriers to help other people overcome them. But you can't help people overcome them if you don't know what they are. So that is why, I've also invested in training like the leadership teams of department heads in this is a concerns-based adoption model so that they can hear better any teacher concerns about any change that we might be getting ready to implement. Okay?
Any more? Yep, go ahead, Marcia.
So we're just in a really hard time in terms of the situation for educators, right? Like that's the situation. We've got really low staff morale, hard time recruiting teachers, not as a district, as a country.
Yeah.
Teachers are going to other professions because they can
Yes.
earn more, yet it's very hard to pay them more because our budgets are tight.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering overall what we could do as a district to stand out more in terms of staff morale, in terms of being a place that's like a really positive workplace, and what types of skills do you bring to the table that could help make that happen here?
I think, I had a fantastic day yesterday. I really did. And and it's not just like when a 4-year-old comes up to you and says, "Will you play with me?" I did have that happen. But I think the reality is this: you have to take advantage and market your opportunity, you know, and I think so. It's like you soar with your strengths, and so I think reporting out, even on my day yesterday, I actually sent a note to all the administrators that were, I think I shared it with you, that was a part of what I saw, because I really felt like they could use some encouragement for, it's hard to be an administrator. It's not, you know, it's not easy. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, I encouraged my school committee chair to do last May at Teacher Appreciation Day time, I encouraged him to send a note to all the teachers in the district, thanking them for their hard work. And it is amazing what that did. You know, so I think there's some very practical, you know, budget is tough all over, and, you know, and it will get better, but your compounded reality is the negative stories that have not really made for, you know, great reality. And I think that is also contributing to people's sense of morale. You know, so I think, you know, I think the positive messages and the support that, you know, you must be the school committee. Yeah. I'm noticing that.
The region.
Yeah. No, but
Yep.
that's true. And it's like, you know, even like, you know, in terms of like opening day, when you welcome, I mean, you know, our school committee chair does a joint, you know, comes in and talks to the teachers too. It doesn't have to be long, but it's just a message of, you know what, I know you're working hard, and I'm glad you appreciate it. You know, and you know, so I think it's it's just creating a better perception of what you're doing and reaching out, you know, to the staff. You know, and I think, again, that those relationships, they serve people well over the long term. You know, and I see somebody that has something.
Anyone?
Deb.
I do.
Deb?
So, can you give us your vision of your relationship with the unions that represent our employees? We have many. There's teachers
Yeah.
union. There's
There's paraprofessionals, there's secretaries,
those are all one
Yeah.
union.
Yeah.
Those three you mentioned, and then we have
Food service.
custodian,
for cafeteria
custodial,
servers.
and
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah.
So we have 4.
We have 6.
We have 6.
And we have, so it's A, B, and C.
Yeah.
For the teachers union, and then there's the APAA, which is the administrators.
Administrators.
So like vice principals and like the athletic director, and then the custodians and the
Food service.
food service.
Okay, I will tell you that, quite honestly, our union at times has been very difficult, okay? But it's only difficult when they feel like there's not that collaboration, right? So, and the other time it was difficult was in the time that we had no money to be able to provide for school committee raises. Or teacher raises, sorry. There is no, yes, I know. Yes, I know.
Zero.
But, you know,
We pay big bucks here.
yeah, so,
We don't get money.
Yeah, we get the big bucks.
so I think that the message there is strategically, the superintendent needs to be reaching out across, you know, to the union person, the lead union person, and the executive board to build that relationship. And that I hope I think I put that on my, let's see. Okay, so, let's see. Yes, I did have that on my entry plan. Okay. Yeah. So it's very specific, but it really is, you have to really look at, building that relationship on a regular basis. And so that, like, in terms of, like, difficult decisions, like, if you have a union situation, you have to call in your head part of, your executive board, and I think we do that, and they respect that. No matter if you're a principal, if it's a pending Title IX or a civil rights complaint, you really should share what you can about the situation with your union head. One person, have a joint conversation, and determine through collaboration, how you might work to improve the situation. I mean, obviously, if somebody's done something like illegal, you can't work collaboratively on that, and you have to call it like it is, and that's just it, and you put somebody out on, you're gonna put somebody out on a paid administrative leave, you have to tell your union person, this is what we're gonna do, this is why we're doing it. In some cases, you can, what you can do is you have to navigate that too, because part of due process and putting somebody out on paid administrative leave is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that what the district is doing is they're actively working to get at the bottom of the story, which is due process, which is, that's definitely allowable. And so, so I think, to be frank, as a building principal, and as an assistant superintendent, my collaborations with the union at all times has been extremely positive. Okay, and part of that, it hasn't been extremely positive with everyone. My relationship has been extremely positive because I have worked with them and understand all the different units and the collaborations. It's just so I've also been in a district that has seen, and the effects of no money really don't position anybody well, okay? And there's just a flat out, there's nothing you can do there. But it's part of, like, positive behavior intervention with your units. Do you know them? Do you know the lead players in them? Do you have a subcommittee that's working for the good of all negotiations? Do you have a tight contract in terms of what reduction in force looks like? Has your existing superintendent talked thoroughly with the union leadership to explain all the aspects of positions that might be cut and affected and whatever, because eventually that gets out, and that doesn't look favorably if nobody has taken the time to do the communication. So, just like thoughts, but those are very good questions.
Thank you. William?
Yeah. In the event that staff members fail to use appropriate pronouns for LGBTQ plus students, causing harm and eroding trust within the queer community, how would you address these issues to repair the harm done and rebuild trust? Additionally, how would you proactively work to demonstrate to the queer community that the districts and schools are committed to being safe, inclusive, and supportive environment for all students?
I think that first means you have to know what the policies, the existing policies are in the district. And if you're going to provide official letters of reprimand, which could eventually lead to dismissal, then you have to have the policy in place behind you to support that you're going to do that. And you have to position your union personnel to understand that. So I think, as you look at the policies, I mean, and that would be also probably something that would be incumbent upon, we may want to look at those policies right away. I don't know to what extent you have. And I don't know to what extent you might need to change those policies. And so, ultimately, if you're going to do anything to discipline, you have to have a specific, defensible, legally interpreted policy in place.
Could you do something without, like, how would you encourage the teachers to use pronouns and encourage staff to understand the importance of that? Like to build a supportive community versus a litigious community.
So I think that part of the training that is provided by Safe Schools, I have Safe Schools coming out on May 6th to my own school district, but I think that that's a continued mechanism within every classroom. As part of your responsiveness, you start the beginning of the year, and the first 6 weeks of school, it's what do you wish to be called? What is your pronoun? And teachers need to know those things, and that is a function of what Safe Schools training prioritizes. And I wasn't here for the staff training that was provided last fall, but I'm assuming that they went over that. And if people aren't providing that, then I think I think what you need to do again is look at your policy, and I think that you can have specific conversations with, if all your classrooms are incorporating that in terms of the need as part of regular school opening. I mean, every single principal has a day with your staff to kind of say, okay, this is a preschool happening. School's going to start. What should we all consistently do in our classroom? So what are consistent procedures for operation? The norms, I think that consistent expectations, are good for everyone.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Is there anything else you would like for us to know? Any questions for us?
I do have ideas, and they are in this plan. I will leave it with the school committee chair. Okay?
Sure.
And and so it's a place of where to start. I think I know where your needs seem to be, but I don't know. One of the things that I need to really do is how is the district protecting itself with what data tools are, data things that you have? What are the communications that are going out? Because those are things that I would like to see that are very visible to, to any news media outlet that wants to look at your site. What are you doing? And I can't find that yet. I don't necessarily have access to that yet, but it's very hidden. Like if there's somewhere, it is hidden, and I don't think I don't necessarily think that is to everyone's best opportunity. I think that you've got some potentially large cases under investigation, maybe still. I don't even know that. Too, but I think you've got to position yourself as a district so that if the perception is coming out in the New Yorker, or if it's being stirred up somewhere else, like a couple months later, you can actively put out a very clear and consistent communication that specifically says, what you're doing to get on top of this situation. And I keep going back to the thing that I said aha about the other day was the particular frame I keep referring to, and that is, how are you redesigning or revisiting policies? In what ways are they safe and effective? How are you communicating that, to teaching staff? How are we pursuing education training? And it's not just about LGBTQ. It's not just about, one race or another race. It's really, what are we doing to create a culture of belonging rather than a culture that is divided? So I see that, and it's great to have affinity groups, but let's publicize that and get that aware. I am not sure if your contract provides for stipends for advisors for any clubs or organizations or whatever. So I don't even know that yet, but yeah. So, and then I think, at the end, it's all about, the inclusive nature of the curriculum, and you're doing some great things. And so but where are they? And that's, and they may be here. They are. I saw some of them the other day. So it's like, yeah. So don't hide the great things you're doing. That's my message.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're- We do, did you have?
Yeah.
I
just
do
gonna say
have
thank you.
yeah.
one thing, we need to talk about scheduling for a future meeting, so if we can just pause before.
Scheduling.
I know, you're so
I
excited.
have my phone out.
Every meeting, we schedule more meetings. Yes. Thank you so much. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a great opportunity to reflect with everybody. Things I've been thinking for a little while. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Way
Thank
out,
you so
way
much.
out.
Have a safe drive.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, so last night we talked about, I'm waiting for Four Towns prep. Yeah. A Four Towns pre, or a post Four Towns meeting, pre, the, town meetings. And then, we also need to decide when we are going to deliberate and decide on a superintendent.
Okay. Can I just ask, was this interview streamed or?
Yes.
what? Okay.
We're still live. yeah.
We're still
We're
live?
still live.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Oh,
We have
okay.
not adjourned.
yes,
We have not adjourned, we are still live.
Not
We still have to
adjourned.
just
but
schedule.
And pre-post.
Yep.
So,
So Four Towns meeting is Saturday, I made us a little sheet, so we can try and figure it out. So, I think the last time I spoke to the business office, they will not have the thing ready for us till the 3-year look ahead until the 18th. Whoops.
to have what to look at on the 18th?
The 3-year look ahead, that the
Projections.
projections.
The business office?
Yep.
Until- oh,
Until the
Remind me when I
beginning, or
talk to you
can we
about
schedule something on the 18th, or are we looking at the 19th then?
I think it should be ready for us on the 18th. That was the week of vacation that I suggested we have a virtual meeting.
Yeah.
What time?
this is the conflict, I may
You-
have a conflict depending. I have a meeting.
And you
at
also have a
6, but
conflict.
If it's, I'm sorry, when is yours?
The 18th,
I mean, like all day or the evening?
no, in
or-
the evening. I'm open during the day, though.
Open during the day.
I'm gonna be on a train.
It's gonna be on the train.
Wait, don't we have on the 18th?
It's the one from
isn't there an
Singapore,
interview?
is it?
No.
No,
From DC.
there's
From
no
DC.
interviews on the 18th. The interviews are the 23rd and the 25th.
Okay.
So we could meet,
Well, can I ask like 5 o'clock? Would we need more than an hour? My meeting's at 6. And I don't have to be here, come to this, but
So we could either meet at like 5 o'clock on Thursday, or we could meet on Friday. I would prefer either like first thing in the morning or at the end of the day, but it is Friday afternoon, so I don't know how people feel about meeting then. We could meet at 9 o'clock in the morning, or 8 o'clock in the morning. Preferences?
I
Anyone?
cannot do in between 9 and 5. I have
Okay.
a job, sorry.
No, that is fine. How about,
Can probably do 5 o'clock on Thursday, if my train is not delayed. And Friday, I'm available.
Friday, what?
I'm available.
all right, so everybody loves a good Friday afternoon meeting.
I have, my schedule's like spaghetti, so it doesn't matter, just, either I'm
loose.
going,
It's
I don't have my phone here, and I'm definitely scheduled up, so whatever is there is gonna be there.
Okay, so could we do 5:30 on Friday virtual? Everybody, anybody?
I'm gonna be on the train at that time.
Oh,
I only have, the thing that I have on Wednesday night is only an hour and a half,
Wednesday or Thursday?
but yeah, on Thursday,
Just pass over.
I don't
and
think
Friday.
Wednesday's an option. What
Oh,
about
yeah.
Thursday at 5? No?
I'm away for 2 days and going up on the train at that time, coming back the next night.
I think we,
What is the time that the most people can come? Because we're not going to have everyone, so
How many can come Friday at 5:30?
can?
Friday at 5:30, Ken? All right,
I'm not sure.
Thursday.
I don't have my phone here.
okay. Let's do Friday at 5:30. It's gonna be super.
What's that date?
The
The
19th.
19th.
And
I will,
this is virtual.
yep, virtual.
At 5:30?
Yep, I'll have Debbie, we'll have it scheduled and, sent out.
Did we consider early Friday? Like 8?
In the morning?
Yeah.
Surely you jest.
Like Tillman, I have a day job too.
Right, but then we'd be guaranteed that we end the meeting on time. Anytime after 7.
Yikes.
Margaret?
Would it be okay to move to adjourn Union 26?
Okay, well, we can start, so we do have, the other thing for Union 26 and the region to decide together is we have to decide when we're going to deliberate and decide on picking a superintendent. Our last superintendent interview is the 25th, which is a Thursday, till,
May I?
absolutely.
Okay, so we had our interview number 1 today. Next week is April break. And the following week, we have the final 2. It's gonna be Tuesday and Thursday of that week of April. So our third and last interview will be April 25th at the same time as this, so like 7:30 to 9, whatever. So the question is, do we want to, after that, continue on and have our deliberate and decide meeting? I'm looking at shaking heads. The reason I ask is that there was some concern at some point amongst committee members that we would lose candidates if we wait too long. And we did try to push all the interviews earlier in the month, but it just didn't work out, so we stuck with this. What's his name? Ralph from McPherson and Jacobson suggested this, that we just go right into deliberate and decide, and that way that gives us a few. Our original plan was to have this deliberate and decide meeting the following Tuesday, April 30th, at which we have a scheduled meeting. But he thought that gives us 5 extra days to negotiate a contract and get things, there might be some back and forth, get things signed. So that's one reason to just push forward with a deliberate and decide meeting right after the last interview. That being said, that also does give the last candidate less opportunity for members of the public to submit that online input form and for us to take in that information, because there's going to, there's going to be, you know, that person's going to have a 2-day visit, and it's going to culminate with a in-person community meeting, and then this public interview, all right in a row. So if we just go right into deliberating, we could ask people who come to the in-person meeting just before to like fill out their form right away, and then we could try to, so that's, there's pros and cons, and also it's late.
Yeah,
We'll just go down the line with this. Irv, Sarah,
yeah,
Deb.
the reason that I don't like that idea is that the last person we see will be the freshest in our mind, whereas the first person, like this one, would be the furthest from our mind. And then we don't have the time or the opportunity to think about what each of those candidates have said. We're right there. We're going right into this decision-making mode. And I know myself, I want to have some time to reflect. So,
Margaret?
I would just say, if that candidate interview is like this one and went for over an hour and a half, I'm not sure I want to then go into a deliberation about 3 candidates that may go on until, I don't know what time.
Sarah?
So I would suggest we meet the next day.
Another Friday meeting.
Another Friday
Yes.
meeting. Let's
Okay, so
Friday meeting?
Friday meeting.
I can't,
I'm a.
I can't do April
There's no-
26th.
Also, what,
I mean, is there a benefit to, I mean, other than time, our original plan was to do this deliberate and decide meeting on Tuesday, April 30th.
Margaret?
If we have a meeting on Friday, I don't think we're going to do negotiating or other kinds of things over the weekend. So I really would be in favor of going to the regular Tuesday meeting.
Would it be instead of our other business for that meeting, or on top of?
On top of
Yeah, I don't think we can do
Yeah,
that.
on Monday?
our Monday.
Can we start earlier?
Monday? It's not on my little sheet.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
Monday, the 22nd.
The 29th.
29.
29.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Monday the 29th, start for an earlier meeting rather than like start at 5:30. Does that work? Try not to be here forever.
On deliberating for a superintendent?
Yes.
We may all
I'd
have
rather
one
eat dinner
decision, who
first.
knows?
And beef.
well, I don't know things about that. One decision.
Bridget?
I just know some people have done work on the weekend before, and I don't know how other people feel, but for me, it would be much easier to do on the weekend, because like some other folks, I do have that day job, and if every night in a week I'm out, it really starts to wear.
Okay. So I'm not, I hear what you're saying, but like,
Saturday, Sunday.
you want to meet on a Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
Bold move.
Well,
Or a meeting on the
I'm
20th.
following your
no.
lead, Sarah and Jen.
Absolutely.
You've done it before.
Sarah,
I would very much prefer a Monday meeting to a Saturday or Sunday meeting.
What I would note, I don't know if members here attend, but 2 of the towns have their town meetings on that Saturday,
Yeah.
the 27th. So
Yeah.
maybe they
Oh,
only take an hour and a half.
Right, the 27th, so the 27th won't work. The 27th is out because it's,
so
you
it
guys got
starts on
other
the
stuff to do.
22nd.
I do.
You're busy.
I do.
Okay, so how about Monday at 5:30?
Monday, what date is that?
Monday is
29th.
the 29th
At 5:30.
at 5:30 to
Yes.
deliberate and decide on a superintendent.
I can do that.
Okay,
I don't know if I can do that, but
nobody wants to do it.
You
Yep,
can do that.
okay.
You do it.
4/29, 5:30.
I don't know if this is a point of order. Does there need to be a public comment part of that meeting?
No, it would be a special meeting and we will have already gathered our, people will have had time to tell us what they want us to know.
Good.
Yeah, Anna?
I don't think we're ever required to have a public comment.
We're not.
Are we planning on having a public comment part?
No. Okay. So I move we adjourn Union 26.
Second.
That's not.
Yes,
He's already voting.
I move. Does someone want to move to adjourn Union 26? You did? Second? Yes.
So all in favor of adjourning Union 26?
All those in favor?
All right.
Great.
Union 26 is adjourned. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so now back to our more fun. We have our third meet. Is that no? We need